My major here at BMCC is bilingual education, early childhood bilingual education. I decided to do early childhood bilingual education because I've always wanted to work with children. What I've done is first I spoke to current bilingual educators. So I spoke to a couple of the teachers who I have a relationship with at the elementary schools that I've internship at. I spoke to a lot of the teachers at the high schools that I've worked in and asked them what should I be doing to pursue a degree in bilingual education. So they all say the same thing: make sure that that's what you want to do, internship somewhere before you really jump into the major. When I came to BMCC to sign up for the class, I made sure that this is something that I wanted to do. Am I ready to take, 12 Spanish credits? Am I ready to teach in my native tongue? A lot of people aren't comfortable with teaching in Spanish and English. They're not comfortable with doing a dual language. They're not comfortable with revisiting the basics of speaking their language, whether it's Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, any African dialect. A lot of people aren't comfortable with revisiting that because a lot of times it's like, well, you're here in the United States, you have to learn English in order to make it. So to go back to speaking your native tongue, it's like, I left my country to learn a different language. Now I have to come to this country to become a bilingual educator and learn my language again. The differences and similarities between the bilingual education and what they call mainstream education here in New York City and the New York City public schools, from my experiences, is that a lot of parents, because they're first generation immigrants to the United States, they want to feel comfortable knowing that they're getting the best service for their children. If you place a Spanish-speaking parent's child in a classroom where they only teach in English, the parent feels that they're not doing what they can do to provide the right services for their children, as far as helping them with homework, communicating with the teacher in the classroom. If I only speak Spanish and I'm going into the classroom and my child's teacher only speaks English, there's no way we're going to be able to communicate. It'll be difficult, and then to have my child translate for them will be more of a struggle, and it's more of a stress on the parent. So I believe that a lot of the differences are just, it's more of a convenience for the parent, and also keeping the culture of the child intact, so to speak. A lot of times when immigrant parents come to the United States, they embed in their children that they should be, they should learn more about the American culture, and it's this whole cultural bomb where you forget about where you come from. I currently work for a high school. I work for EBC High School for Public Services in Bushwick, Brooklyn. I am a paraprofessional. I am also I assist with the public service because it's a school for public service. A lot of what I'm learning here at BMCC relates to how I conduct or how I assist in some of the classrooms, which to me it's great because a lot of people go into their majors and wanting that hands-on experience, but can't seem to get it because what they're learning in school they cannot adapt to their job. I just recently received an award from the Department of Health. It was the Commissioner's Distinguished Service Award for 2009 for our meaning my poetry collective, El Grito de Poetas. It was our work and service that we provide to the HIV and AIDS community. The reason why I write was to get away from everything else that was going on. And I think I know that this is the reason why I wanted to educate. When I was in elementary school, my mother was abused. So I'm considered a survivor, a domestic violence survivor. In 2003, I was asked to speak before 4,000 people about domestic violence. So I went up and did a poem about my mother's struggles with domestic violence, and somehow it always comes back to education. It was really about, when I was in school, my bilingual teacher she knew something was wrong. So she would ask, like, is everything okay? Is everything all right at home? I knew that if I told her, that they would take me away from my mother. Because anyone who speaks to the adults in the school, you know, the adult has to report it, and then government agencies get involved. And for me, it was a big deal. It was like, I can't do that. I can't allow myself to be removed from my home knowing that I'm the one who's protecting my mother from whatever's going on. So I stayed. And my best friend became a pen and a paper. It's cliche, but I wrote everything that I was going through, wrote everything down. And one of my teachers, she read us a story. She said the good thing about reading and writing is that you can write a story that can be totally about you, but never has to be about you. And in the 4th grade, you're like, this woman is crazy. How can you write a story about you that doesn't have to be about you? And I realized that it was just about switching who you're talking about. You can talk about yourself, but you can talk about yourself in 3rd person, so no one really knows that it's really about you. So I wrote poems, and I wrote poems about a little girl who cried every night because, you know, her father was being beat up. And my teacher came up to me. She was like, who is this little girl? We need to speak to her. We need to find out if she's okay. And all this time I was like, oh, no, she's not from here. So I made up stories. She lives in Brooklyn. It's someone I see on the weekends. And all the time it was really about me. So I always wrote stories. And my poetry now translates that I'm a storyteller. I write stories about the kids that I work with. I write poems about the situations that I've been through. And a lot of it just has to do with me being passionate about letting the youth who I want to educate know that, look, there's someone who looks like you, who's been through the same thing that you've been through, or may have been through more of the things that you've been through, who's here to help you. And a lot of the times, this is what we have to do.